Yeah, I've been in construction my whole life. I mean, I don't know why.
Well, I understood they said it was a soft estimate, 1.8 for Band-Aid patches, not even.
Which I don't know. I understand the prices are crazy. But it's like, sure.
That's a whole big thing too.
So that's,
I mean, look
my
at what
point was if there's
that
something
whole
like
big
that.
rigmarole with the pickleball. I mean, that's insane.
You're gonna need a plate?
Another hot thing. It's gonna be interesting, but I think like we're kind of in a stuck, like a holding pattern. There's not a lot of decisions we can make as committee when until the board decides what they're doing with things. So at least that's the feedback I've kind of gotten.
It's KAT.
No, you need one here.
No, it's mine's right here.
Okay, no, you're good.
I'm old school. I'm too old to change over everything.
Kid Andres, right?
Yeah.
Missing someone.
I'm gonna figure out how to
Sorry?
video conference in the next two. Out of town.
Okay.
next two.
All right, yeah. Actually, I think that's Victoria.
I'm here.
Okay.
Nick,
Hello,
you
hello.
I would thank you.
Tuesday issue, the fourth
each
Tuesday or
document
the
has
whole
the-
Tuesday?
It was the fourth Tuesday. The finance committee's meeting the fourth Tuesday.
Should we maybe
We
consider
could
like
try to do the third.
or
I can
something?
double
I
check.
I
that.
can do today and I can do July, but then moving forward, I can't do Mondays.
I
And I'm flexible with anything. It's fine. The only
Okay.
thing I know when far enough in advance, we're retired. We can adjust our schedule easy. No.
awesome. Okay, yeah, Mondays are a little bit tight for Danny and I, so Tuesdays probably look the
I'm
best.
flexible, other than our kids are out west, so we can spend July and August
Okay.
out west, so.
Right.
Not so bad to get out of Florida, but July and August anyway.
No,
That's
not
right.
at all. yeah.
Right.
We just got back from New York and I was like, oh my God, this is so
They've
great.
been having cool weather up there now.
Do you guys need any water?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you. No, it was beautiful. I was like, I'm gonna go up to that.
Did you ever kind of think about like it was? Oh, no.
Oh, it's
So
nothing.
Yeah.
I had to learn how to deal with my hair.
DC does have its.
It does,
Yeah.
but not till like July, August. Right now,
Oh, yeah.
I was in a jacket.
Wow.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, it's starting to get muggy. No, there are days when I would look at the calendar to be hotter and higher humidity in July, but
Oh, yeah.
they're not there yet.
Well, I did that before we moved. Let's look at the relative temperature. I was like, okay,
I
so
don't know if you
June,
updated the.
September.
I
hotter
did
than
put
longer.
4 months.
Okay, because this one's.
So it'll be
Meaning
updated.
Long Island's at 92,
Yeah.
and we're on an island and it's humid.
But also the difference in the winter, because it's such a wet. My sister lived in New York City and I would
Oh,
complain
it's
about
a
the cold,
brutal
and she was
cold.
like, don't you complain about the cold, and then
No.
she went to, and she was like, oh my gosh, it's worse. And
Yeah.
when it does drop, it's just,
Yeah.
it cuts through
Yeah, but that's, see, I'd rather have it cooler.
for a
I
shorter
can,
amount of
I
time.
can
yeah.
put stuff on. There's only so much you can take off
Uh,
without being
Exactly.
New
decent.
York might have been right, you know?
I don't think the cold anymore. I'm done with the cold.
No, I can,
So done.
like I said, I put stuff on, and I'm better with, after menopause, you're much better with colder weather.
Hey, John, I'll include that in the meeting notes for this time.
Appreciate it.
It's just nicer than we drove all the way up, and when we got there, we're like, is New York this dirty?
It's different.
Hey,
Was it
Victoria.
really this dirty?
Hey, Victoria, can you hear us?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can, yeah. We have a quorum, so if you would like to get started, it's 5:30.
All right, that sounds great. Thank you, everyone, for attending this evening. I apologize that I am not there in person and not on Zoom. I was actually supposed to be on Zoom, but my husband's flight got canceled and we needed to get him home for work. So we are driving. So I am in Jacksonville. We are almost home. So change of plans, but I appreciate everyone's flexibility in letting me call in. So I'm going to, since we have an attendance and a quorum, I am going to move that we adopt the agenda. I am going to request a couple different changes. I want to confirm, is the representative from Phoenix Lacrosse in the room?
Yes, that's correct, yes.
Perfect. Then we want to move you to the top of us going through that so that you don't have to stay for the whole meeting. And then I am also going to move that we would move action item number 5 to action item number 4 out of respecting time for them as well. Is that okay?
Me too.
can you motion and second?
I'm sorry.
I can make the motion.
Second.
Thank you. All those in Okay.
All right.
Next, we're all here. Next, I want to discuss the approval of the meeting minutes. If everybody can take just a couple minutes to address those. I do want to say that John did send an email in regards to the basketball approval being a 4-month contract, not a 6-month contract, and that change has been adjusted in the meeting minutes. So thank you for that, John. Do we have a motion to accept the meeting minutes from May 23rd of 2023?
Motion.
In a second?
Second.
Hey, Victoria, just a heads up. The meeting minutes that they received in front of them still says 6 months. But the PDF that we revised does say 4 months. So just for the record, it did get revised.
Thank you for the clarification on that. Okay, with including the information that Nikki said, all those in favor of the meeting minutes approval?
Aye.
All right. Then we're going to move on to the Park and Recreation update. I know that summer breakout is in full swing. I know that Nikki has been Camp Counselor of the Year, so kudos to her. There's been a number of campers. 30 is the maximum of what we can host. Week 1, we had 28. Week 2, we had 27. Week 3, we maxed out at 30. And week 4, we were maxed out at 30. So it's a very successful program for our for our community. So congrats to the rec team and everything they're doing there. Any other updates that anyone has regarding Parks and Recreation from Nikki, your team?
As far as the playgrounds, I know that's the question. Just checking with Brian, the operations manager. Spring Park is still at a standstill, but Long Meadow, they're having an artificial turf laid out. So that's so far Long Meadow's going well, but right now there's still a standstill at Spring Park. As until I can get further information, that's all we have right now. So hopefully at the next rec meeting, we should have an update if we're moving forward or not. So
Isn't it the same
Okay.
contract?
contract rule, yeah.
Same guy?
Yeah.
But what is holding them up? What is their excuse?
I believe it was the permits that held them up big time.
A permit?
The permits, yeah, that held them up, I know, for a bit. And then I think it was Spring Park. They had issues with the concrete, so they had to remove that in order to replace the artificial turf up there.
I saw there was an executive email, I think that went out, that's saying attorneys were involved. with this.
Correct.
That's
At this
still-
point, yeah, the attorney's been involved.
Okay.
And my understanding is this will probably be brought up at the CROA meeting on Wednesday, as well, as I know it's a hot topic in town.
Correct, yes.
Any other updates?
That was it.
Okay. Then I am going to move on to number 3 on our agenda, which is the AAU flag football, the partner program request. Since our last meeting, Nikki and I were able to meet with Marco, who's part of Celebration Soccer Club. In the last meeting, we motioned to approve August, September, and October, which was Tuesdays and Fridays from 5 to 7 p.m. We did confirm with Marco and his schedule that would work. However, in the last meeting, we didn't know what to expect for November, December, and January, and we didn't cement any times in our meetings or vote on them till we were able to meet. So we were able to meet with him, ensuring that there were no conflicts. And after reviewing in November, the AAU team would be able to practice on Tuesdays and Fridays from 4:30 to 6:30. And then in December and January, it will be available on Tuesdays and Fridays from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. And we are also going to be working with the recreational flag football team as well, that program. That's run through Joe LaRosa. That's not AAU, that's NFL. I believe it's called NFL 360 or 60 Play, something like that Joe runs. all those programs are working together. So could we please have a motion to approve the flag football schedule now for November, December, and January on Tuesdays and Fridays with these new times as well?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Approve.
All right. Then we're going to move number 5 to number 4, as this is going to be the real meat and bones of our meeting tonight as we go through the recreation partner contracts renewal. The following contracts below will expire on July 31st of 2023. This is to renew each contract through July 31st of 2024. I do want to point out that each of these contracts right now currently say subject to change. And the reason for that is we have a lot of unknowns and not knowing what to expect with both Heritage Hall and Town Hall and what facilities we are actually going to be able to honor as far as the contracts. So though we are moving to move forward with these, we're moving them with each program contact knowing these are subject to change based on availability and based on what we learn. So it's going to be subject to change based on what the dates are occurring for Town Hall as well. So with that, I'm going to move Phoenix Lacrosse to A, from I to A. I do want to add one other thing that's been coming. Sorry, I'm reading through my notes. It has been brought up that multiple recreation programs are using minors to help either with coaching and or refereeing, umpiring, whatever the sport may be. We do have it in our bylaws that every recreation program for an adult does have to go through a background check. We are looking at adding drug screenings for any high schoolers that are volunteering as well. I know that Nikki has been working with the lawyer for Grand Manners and CROA to find there, but there has been some concern of high schoolers, if they're going to be these leaders and these volunteers, we need to make sure that they are of sound mind and best behavior at all times. So there is, we're reviewing the rules and regulations for that. So I did want to make the team know that we are starting to look at that for all of these programs, whether they are a program that we are reviewing today or programs that already have their contracts in place, just to make sure that we're providing a safe environment throughout the community. Is there any questions or comments in regards to drug screening for high school students? Okay, so I just wanted to add that, as that's going to be something that's new that we hope, if it's legal and approved, for everything moving forward. So with that, I'm going to bring up the Phoenix Lacrosse contract. Everybody can take a moment to review that. And if we have any questions or comments.
I wanted to quickly note, I don't think we received it in the email. I think we received everyone but that one in the email. But I could be wrong.
Right, so as far as a Phoenix Lacrosse, we didn't have a contract, because the last contract we had technically was done. That was written like the previous ones was December 30th, 2021. So that one will probably be a new contract, not a contract renewal, Victoria.
Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies.
So
I
that's
thought
my
that
bad.
was
I put
renewal.
it under contract renewal, so that's my apologies.
Okay. So then, Nikki, for that, do we have something that we are reviewing for them for the upcoming placeholder, basically, for lack of a better word right now?
Correct, yeah. So the first, it's like roughly 6-7 pages of the contract stands as is with all the other partner programs. It's just going to be the scope of work that is a little bit different. So scope of work would determine the location. It would still have the level 2 background checks. Their schedule has to be submitted at least 2 weeks in advance. Certificate of insurance requirements as well. So it still has the same guidelines as the scope of work of everyone else. It's just going to be more towards lacrosse itself, if that makes sense.
Okay. And did they fill out a new 23 facility application?
They applied for the spring, so this is kind of like a review for them to continue. Cause they
Okay.
met up with, us, I believe it was February, to have a spring lacrosse session or lacrosse season. That was over at the Spring Park Open Field. So this is a follow-up to see how well their spring season did. So we can continue with a one-year contract, with Phoenix Lacrosse.
Okay.
And Victoria, you have a representative from lacrosse here as well.
Great. Would you guys like to stand up and tell us a little about your program and what the plan is for the next season moving forward? We'd love to see a lot of success for you guys. I know you're a long-standing program within the community.
Sure. So with this past season, the spring season, this was most of the girls' first time picking up a stick. So
Right.
they really enjoyed it, had so much fun. We did our games over in Sanford. So we were part of the name of that? Soul Blazers League over in Sanford. So with that, they did we had 6 games. They did win 2. We had 13 girls on the team this past year. Probably for each game, at least 9 to 10 were able to show up for that. We are
Great.
looking at for this upcoming to have anywhere from the 13 to 20, just depending on additional interest, as their friends are now telling other friends and everybody kind of wants to come out and play with them. But we are looking right now at grades 3rd through 5th. So we're staying at that more elementary level right now. We are looking to start a fall season, which is going to be more of once a week. Just get some stick activity, learn the game a little bit more, so that way they're ready for the spring when we'll sign up for the tournaments and the games again. And that would be like this past spring where we did 2 a week. I believe it was Tuesdays and Thursdays.
That sounds great.
The fall, we were currently looking at potentially Labor Day until either, I believe right before Thanksgiving, so mid-November. So kind of before that, daylight savings and it's getting darker earlier. For that fall, we were looking at same location at Spring Park. Again, for that, they wouldn't need any turf time. The games and tournaments they play are in grass anyways, so it's better for them to get used to that. I believe Kim was only requesting if it was a possibility in the spring to maybe have 1 day a week of turf time just until daylight savings. We ran into some challenge of only having about 30 minutes before it got a little bit too dark out there.
I think that's great. I think that's something that now we know what your needs are. We can definitely, similar to what we did with the AAU flag football team, go to Marco and say, these are the times we're looking at, and see how that works with the contract that's currently in place for the soccer team. I want to say I was definitely impressed with Marco when we met with him. He is definitely trying to be flexible and get as many different sports on those fields as possible. He did have a concern about breathing time for the actual fields for the grass to continue to stay healthy, but he is definitely trying to understands our want to get multiple sports on that field. So I think that's fantastic. But it's lacrosse, we're definitely willing to go back and see what we can do, because the daylight savings does make it hard, especially with that grade of 3rd to 5th. They get out so late. A couple minutes after they get out of school, it's dark.
Yeah. And it was really just for the first few weeks until the time switches over.
Nikki, is there any additional information we need from lacrosse to make sure that we have their future contract, should it be approved, all buttoned up at this time?
They actually provided all their documents when they had their spring season. So if there's
Okay.
any additional information required, or if the insurance expired, I'll be sure to have that ready to go for their fall session.
Okay. So then in this case, Nikki, we're not voting on a contract renewal necessarily. We're voting on a contract reinstate. Would that be correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. So based on the information given, do I have a motion to reinstate the Phoenix lacrosse program within our town?
Is it okay if I ask a question first, Victoria?
Oh, yeah, please.
On the celebration groups page, it says CCFC for this. Would it be both the CCFC and the Spring Park location?
Correct, yeah. I would put just like a comma, put Spring Park there as well.
And so you said that in the spring, you guys would be looking for a 1 day a week at CCFC?
Potentially for the first couple of weeks until the daylight savings.
That's all I want to know. Thank you.
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Do I have a second?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, it cut out. I believe we have a motion and a second. If so, all those in favor?
Aye.
The motion has passed. We're excited for you, Phoenix Lacrosse. We want you guys to have an awesome season coming up, and we love that you're investing, especially in such a young age, to help make our high school teams even stronger. So thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
All right. Then continuing on to A, which is Celebration Flag Football. Again, this, I'll give everybody a couple minutes to do that. This is a contract renewal. And we would be looking at adding the drug screening for high schoolers. This program is in good standing. They had 191 players last year, thus giving $1,910 as their payment, and they paid that and are in good standing. Do we have any questions or comments in regards to Celebration Flag Football? Without
only
any
question
questions or
Actually, is everybody
Yeah.
working together for the schedules? We're good. That's not an issue.
So when they get approved as a contractor, since everyone expires July 31st, I'll meet with all of them and say, here, pick your slots, and then we all agree or disagree. Joe is pretty laid back. I'll let him know when a field's available or not available for flag football, so he does work around our
Okay.
schedule for as well.
Awesome. I have no concerns.
What ages and are we providing this for?
This
So
one
this-
starts. Go ahead. This one starts at kindergarten, and it was going up to age 15 for boys. They did extend it to 16 for girls, knowing that they felt that was comparable compared to skill as well as size and competing. And everybody approved that for there. So it is taking our elementary, our middle school, and our freshmen in high school.
And the teams are unisex, I'm guessing?
Last year, they the lower grade teams through middle school were boys and girls on the same team. The middle school, high school, the very oldest age group had one all girls team, and the rest were all boys team. And that was with the thought of preparing those teams as they would be playing high school like that as well.
Thank you.
Can I ask a clarification? So we're running two different flag programs on the same fields in the same season? Is that what we're voting for?
So
Correct. One is the recreational. One is a recreational program that would be similar to like our Little League or our soccer programs or something like that. And then the AAU program is a girls team only. That would be, I would compare to a travel team.
I got it. I misunderstood that. So AAU is ladies only. Got it.
Ladies only, and it is Osceola County.
Great.
And they're an association programming, not an athletic group? AU?
I'm sorry, all I heard is not athletically. What was that last part?
AAU is an association programming, not an athletic group, right?
Correct. It is
So-
an association program, but this would just be one team. that AAU is honestly where they're getting their insurance from.
Thank you.
Any additional questions in regards to Celebration Flag Football?
Yeah, exactly.
I will tell you that just because, again, my daughter's on this team that I know, as far as that older girls team, 90% of those girls play on both Celebration Flag Football as well as the AAU team. The reason they do not play is because they've aged out. They're too old to be in Celebration Flag Football. Do I have a motion to approve the Celebration Flag Football contract renewal?
Aye.
In a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, moving on to B for Littlefin. We do have good standing. Hold on just one moment, please. Can you shut that door? Thank you. Moving on to Littlefin. This is another program that is in good standing. They did not have lessons part of the year due to maternity leave, but it is recommended to go ahead and allow this program to continue due to the importance of survival swim lessons. That's really what these swim lessons are about. We did receive $809 in the last year from the program, so I will give you a couple minutes to review that contract renewal and see if anyone has any questions. If everyone's had a minute to review Littlefin, are you comfortable proceeding with a motion for a contract renewal for this program?
I'd like the motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to C, which is Family Fitness. Again, this is another program that is in good standing with us. We received $673.20 last year from the program. So I'll give you a couple minutes to review that. This is going to be a contract renewal as well.
And Family Fitness is like more like a boot camp. It could be for youth all the way up to adults.
Is this Ryan?
This right, yeah. He's over at the North Village Pavilion in Outdoor Boot Camp.
So a lot of the building stuff won't impact him.
Correct, it won't impact him. The reason why I was speaking to Victoria about this, the reason why he's kind of like a placeholder renewal is the folks who are inside may potentially be moving to the North Village Pavilion, whether that's classes outdoors, whatnot, that could impact his classes
Okay.
at the pavilion.
So then that would be a you sit down and work with schedules.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
On that pavilion, I know that they're adding electric signage there. Are they gonna have power outage for like a fan?
Right, so once we get that notification, that's when we notify the programs what will be impacted. So if they're like pressure washing outside of a building, if they're painting, the operations team will notify us, so we can at least notify the program well in advance. Yeah.
Do I have a motion to do a contract renewal for Family Fitness?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, sounds good. Moving on to D, which is Irish Dance. This program as well is in good standing. Our town received $8,691.60 in the last year from this program. This is definitely going to be, this is the first one on our list that is an indoor program. So we do have let them know that this is more like a placeholder contract till we know what we can or cannot do for them in regards to town hall. Do I have a motion to approve the Irish Dance contract
Motion.
renewal? And a second?
I'll second.
those in favor?
Aye.
I will
Moving
not be
on
here
to,
next line, just heads up.
Yeah.
A little bit of a conflict of interest.
moving on to X Factor Dance. This program is in good standing. We received $20,239.84 in the last year from this program. Lindsay, again, is aware that we don't know what we can or cannot commit to as far as the space within Town Hall. So currently, this is more of a placeholder program until we know what we're up against. So I'll give you a couple minutes to review that. Again, for the record, Lindsay is abstaining from voting on this due to conflict of interest. Do we have a motion to proceed with a contract renewal for X Factor Dance?
Motion to proceed.
And a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Okay.
Moving on to Celebration Little League. This is an outside program. This program is in good standing. There were 313 athletes, and the town did receive $3,100 in this program. There was a smaller issue where coaches were using some of their practice time for not only their Little League team, but as well as their travel team. Alec, and who's the president of Celebration Little League, being a great partner, took care of that and made sure that he was holding to the contract that he signed and him representing for it. So I think this program has done very well to hold to their contract and make sure it is a community program. But other than that, the only other change would be adding the drug screening for any high schoolers that are volunteering. This will especially be, I think, for more umpires than anything. Do I have a motion to approve the Celebration Little League contract renewal?
I'll make a motion.
And a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to letter G, this is going to be for Aqua Yoga. This program as well is in good standings with us. Our town received $1,515 over the last year from this program. We'll give you a couple minutes to review the contract and see if anyone has questions or comments. This one will most likely not be affected, even though it's an outdoor program for their pool. So I think we'll be fine on this contract renewal and its standing. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor? Moving on to our final contract renewal. This is for the yoga program. Previously, we were talking about Aqua Yoga. This program is in good standings as well, and our town received $430 in the last year for this program. I'll give you a couple minutes to review and open it up for any questions or comments. Do I have a motion to approve the yoga contract renewal?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, so to recap, our recreational program contract renewals have been approved for Celebration Flag Football, Little Fins, Family Fitness, Irish Dance, X Factor Dance, Celebration Little League, Aqua Yoga, and Yoga, with a contract reinstatement for Phoenix Lacrosse. Congratulations to all of these programs, and thank you for what you give to our community. It's going to be a good year.
Victoria, one quick thing. I forgot to include the notes, Celebration Dog Training and Cassie Sports. That's on the agenda. So if we can just approve Celebration Dog Training and Cassie Sports.
Okay.
I can go over a little bit of background. So as
Okay.
far as celebration dog training, we received $977.20 from this program, and they're also in good standing. Melania teaches dog training over at the North Village Pavilion, so it is outdoor. She does walk around with the dog, so it's more of a home base. So even if we did have to relocate programs over there, she can work around multiple programs with those dogs.
Thank you for the recap on celebration dog training. Do we have any questions or comments about that? May I have a motion to do a contract renewal for celebration dog training?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
All those in favor? And then Nikki, could you give a recap regarding Cassidy Sports as well?
So Cassie Sports works around Celebration Little League. So right now they're doing like a summer session. So again, they have to work around Little League. So right now we have collected over $900 from their program because they only utilize the batting cage with the exceptions of like Saturdays and Sundays when they're out there. So right now they are in good standings. I'm trying to ensure that they work very closely again with Alec and Little League to ensure that there's no conflict of interest.
Is this like the summer wooden bat league? I saw signs for it.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Is that the only sport they do?
I'm sorry, for Cassie Sport, yeah, I'm sorry, yeah. It's like a travel baseball league.
And then Nikki, what is the ages on this one? I think this is elementary and middle school as well. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any additional questions or comments in regard to Cassidy Sports? Do I have a motion to do a contract renewal for Cassidy Sports?
Real quick, where are they on here? On the celebration groups?
I'm so sorry, I couldn't hear that clearly.
Hey, Victoria, John was asking where they would be included on the celebration groups for 2023. I personally forgot to include them, but they would be under athletic groups.
Okay.
I'll send an update for this 2023 one.
Do we have a motion to approve Cassidy Sports?
Motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So we have added both Cassidy Sports and Celebration Dog Training to our additional recreational partner programs that will have their contract renewed. With that in mind, I am going to back up in our agenda to number 4, which is the 2024 budget for Celebration Community Chorus and Celebration Garden Club. This is a continuation of what was discussed in the May 23rd meeting. The Celebration Chorus used to fall underneath Town Hall as a in-house program. However, their program thankfully grew and has become its own organization. In the past, $3,500 was given to the program to assist with the cost of 3 concerts. There has been concern drawn in what other additional programs we are giving money to from the past meeting, and currently this is the only program, with the exception of the Garden Club, which we'll go through in a minute, that we are giving money to. If we allow this program to receive money each year, I think there is a fear that the downfall is other organizations will as well ask for equal amounts of money, and thus we will go down a slippery slope of who do we give money to and why. I want to go ahead and discuss the Garden Club, and then I'm going to open up the floor for questions or comments. Let me back up 1 second. If we discontinue the funds for 2024, CROA and Town Hall has agreed to continue with giving them utilization of their rooms without any rent. This would be for both concerts as well as not charging for practice throughout town hall and other facilities that we have in town. Moving on to the garden club. The garden club, we have given $5,000 for the replacement and enhancing of landscaping for CROA facilities. The comment was made in the last meeting, and I believe it will continue here as well, that we will either be paying the garden club to replace these flowers and do this work, or we will need to pay the landscaper additional funds, and we don't know what that cost is. Nikki, to confirm, is my understanding that for that $5,000 with the garden club, it is a use it or lose it type thing. It is not something that rolls over year after year. If they decided to only do a smaller portion one year and something bigger the next year. That is my understanding about both the Celebration Community Chorus as well as the Celebration Garden Club. And those are the recommendations that are given, that we would discontinue the $3,500, but also continue with the complimentary use for practice and concerts, and that we would continue with the $5,000 for the garden club for enhancing landscaping throughout our community. I will open the floor for any questions or comments.
Is there a reason they're under associate programming and not a civic and service group? Do they charge for participation?
You're talking about.
Are you referring to chorus or garden club?
For the chorus, garden club is a civic and service group. I was just wondering why chorus is under a program versus a service or civic group.
Right, yeah, because I put celebration table tennis under there as well, but from my understanding, chorus does charge, I believe it's like $10.
A quarter.
I was just curious what the criteria was.
So, would you say that you would recommend we discontinue the 3,500 for the course?
That is the recommendation, as we are not doing it for any other program at this time.
Real quick, what do we know how much that 3,500 goes towards the conductor?
We do not. We have given that to the choral for them to use as they see fit. There has not been any request for asking for receipts, for lack of a better word of saying it, to see how they are using it.
Because, and like I said last time, my wife is on the course, but she doesn't go all the time. I could see that without being able to hire the conductor, it would probably fizzle out. So that's one consideration. I don't know how much the fees may go up, but just wanted to make that comment.
No, I think that's a good comment. I believe they would have to do some type of registration fees, as some of the other programs do, if we decided to proceed with this.
Do they charge for their concerts?
No, I believe they're complimentary, but they used to have a group, they still have a group, I believe, called the Clefs. And it's like a sponsor, like you could be a sponsor, and then you get like priority seating.
Okay. That's a good offset. I kind of see it as fair. I mean, they're already getting their fees waived. I think giving them additional funds definitely opens the door for other programs to question it.
Any other comments in regard to the choral piece of it?
If I just like to make my position, if the 3,500 is needed for the conductor, then I would hold that we should maintain 3,500. But we should probably get a clarification in that regard.
So based on that, I hearing that we would like to have the Coral give us a breakdown on how they use that $3,500 each year. And then based on that, we would consider whether we would move forward. Other committee members, is that something that you would like to put into motion?
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So at this point, Nikki, we will need to have a breakdown on how that money is utilized each year, as the Recreation Committee feels they need that information to see if $3,500 is a good, of good faith on where we would place that money.
Okay. I can get that information.
Moving on to the Garden Club, it is recommended to approve the $5,000 that goes into replacement and enhancing of the landscaping throughout the CROA facilities. I'd like to open the floor for any discussion on the Garden Club.
Do we have a breakdown on how they're spending those funds now?
We do not. Both the garden and Coral, we just gave them, in the past, the money has just been granted.
But from my understanding, Clint, they have to get everything approved with the ARC committee, the garden club.
Right.
So it does go through like an approval process. So they just can't run away and just spend the 5,000 without approval.
Right.
So there are checks and balances in place for them.
That could be something that we could do for course as well. You know what I mean? So you have to get approval in order to utilize the money. So
I don't know that it's a bad idea to, if we're gonna spend the money anyway, and we have community members that love to dig in the dirt.
Yeah.
And that's a part of their passion, and if we could just have a breakdown on how that money's being, are they spending $5,000 on shrubbery by itself and basically the labor's free? How does that break down? That'd be great to know, and then we could kind of chime in on it.
Maybe
Then
would be good to increase the garden club if I don't know,
The need is there.
have the news there.
my only concern with increasing any budgets, which leads me to another point I was going to get to at later in the meeting. I am asking someone from the Finance Committee to start attending our next couple of meetings, because based on what happens with Town Hall and what gets approved, our town runs a great risk of having our budget cut drastically, because we're not able to collect. We saw a big part of that came from Irish dancing and X Factor dance, which were inside programs. And if they're not able to hold those programs or as much of it, we do run the risk of our budget being cut drastically. So I just want to make sure we're being very transparent with the Finance Committee based on what our decisions were, because that's going to affect them on how they're doing their budget. And I don't want to blindside anybody.
No, I think it's really smart.
Agreed.
So the more transparent we can be, the more we'll stay out of trouble is kind of my motto. So that's how we're going to run that, I think. And we have nothing to hide. And I think the more partnership we can do between us, hopefully we're making their jobs easier too. So back to the garden club on that though, are we wanting to see receipts from that as well? Are we comfortable with it going through ARC and continuing with the 5,000? Which way is our committee leaning towards?
I will say, before we decide, if, for the garden club, at least, if we give too much busy work, it may reduce the number of volunteers. Just wanted to say that.
Yeah.
I would prefer the money go to community members beautifying the community over a landscape company. Comes
Yeah,
down to
I
it.
agree.
So I'm happy to move forward. I'm happy to have them show us receipts, since at the end of the day, we're the ones approving it, but I am happy to encourage them to continue.
I agree.
Is there any concern about the amount of $5,000?
No,
No.
Then based on those comments, do we have a motion to proceed to approve recommending to CROA that we approve the $5,000 that will go to replacing the landscaping at CROA facilities. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The number 6 is the facility rental rules and regulations. This is going to be reviewing the rules and regulations to see if we need to add or remove any additional items that are on our facility rentals. I do think that we'll review this now. I do believe there will be a part 2 of this, as again, based on what happens with Town Hall, what those rental rules and regulations will be, is we'll have some of our indoor programs using outside facilities, and then even a part 3 when we allow those programs back into the indoor facilities based on what we learned from the construction phase and what our needs are. Nikki, I'm going to refer to you on the current rental rules and regulations and what those look like.
Okay, so in front of you all, we printed out the facility agreement, use agreement that we have right now. We condensed it into one agreement, so it shows like on page 4 or 5 residents versus non-resident rates. I didn't want us to get too in-depth with the rates itself because we wanted to have at least 2 finance committee members with us at these meetings. So I know Victoria is probably going to go over availability with you all for July and August, so we at least can get some dates for those committee members to attend these meetings. But specifically for today, if we can kind of go over page 2 and 3, it's basically like the contract agreement. That's specifically what we're reviewing today together as a team before we go in depth with the actual rules, or I'm sorry, the pricing structure itself.
One last quick question.
Yeah.
So we have outdoor facilities for rent. Who decides which green areas are available for rentals?
So that was like I believe that was a committee thing back in the day. We personally have not added or removed any facilities just yet. So that's as a recreation committee. When we're looking at those pricing structures, we're going to review, is it worth having a private function there? Is it not? Because I know Danny, he assists with all the facility rentals. I know sometimes you get questions about like Long Meadow, that location for Long Meadow for photography. A lot of people ask to rent that location, but we don't even rent it as of right now. So that's something as a rec committee, do we want to try to have interest in that? If a photographer comes on property, do we really want to get like in the weeds of, oh, you're taking a 10-minute session? We're charging you X, Y, and Z. So that's something that we just need to review as a committee. This is going to be kind of like a long process, but once we're all said and done with this, I feel like it's going to help our team in the near future.
What about like adding, for instance, right in front of the Arson Park Clubhouse is a big green space. And then there's a few places in Spring Lake Park, big green spaces that we could consider adding. I don't know if that'll be today or another time, but I think we should evaluate which places may be potentially to add for outdoor green space
Right.
rentals.
And I know we have to be careful because I want to say that open field across from Artisan Park Clubhouse, that actually belongs to Artisan Park and not CROA. So I'll look up the map. It's kind of like what's our property versus what everyone else's when we get in depth with those pricing structures. Great.
And Nikki, I believe we've discussed that we would do 2 to 3 meeting dates over July and August to really break this down. And again, with our finance partners to be sure. It's my goal that at no point the CROA board would say, where did you get these numbers from? We should have enough to back up and be able to pass a red face test of where we got these numbers from and why we proposed what we proposed, and in agreement with the finance committee that it's going to benefit the community. Can you discuss a little bit about what those 2 to 3 meeting dates would look like?
So as far as the 2 or 3 meeting dates, I was thinking about splitting it up. So one meeting would be specifically like outdoor facility fee rental structures. That could be for resident, non-resident. Potentially in the near future, if we want to look at partner programs with that. Right now, we're trying to push everything to a flat rate. Nonprofits or special events. The next meeting would be focused on indoor facility rental fee structure, same thing for resident, non-resident, nonprofit and special events. As far as equipment, facility or equipment rental fee structure, we have a lot of folks asking to rent our grills, rent our tables and chairs. I know we utilize our equipment for like marathons in towns, 5Ks. We still want to continue doing that. However, we don't really have the money to replace all this equipment. So that's just something that we just need to consider in the near future. Sometimes a rental utilizes 120 tables and we only get 115 back. You know what I mean? So it's just something that maybe we need to have in our rules and regulations. Yeah.
Like insurance that they have to pay extra for the new equipment.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And our equipment is honestly just getting older. So I mean, it's not generally their fault that it broke. It was unfortunately bound to happen anytime soon. You know?
But rates may need to be adjusted to try to purchase new. Is what we're.
Correct. So we can think about continuing being sponsors because we want to be able to help give back to the community, but maybe having like a deposit placeholder on it, like, hey, here's $300. If any equipment breaks in your hands, we take that money so we can replace the equipment. Just something to consider.
That's a good idea.
And are part of these meetings also looking at flat fees versus hourly fees and what that structure looks like? Is that part of the plan for these workshops as well?
I know when Clint was the chair, that was kind of our goal last year is by this year to have flat fee structures. But it sounds like with kind of like Island Village Clubhouse kind of up and running, we're getting a lot of facility rentals on Danny. It's more than a full-time job with rentals. We're trying to control those rates first, I really think, before we focus on facility or partner program flat rates.
Okay.
Most of the rentals, are they residents or non-residents?
Majority, I do have residents, but it depends on the month. Like I get a lot of non-residents, but Island Village, we do not rent out. Yeah, oh, no, ma'am.
It's too small. I live there. It is tiny. Even when they have a kid's birthday party, there's nowhere to park anywhere.
Outdoor facilities, majority, it's, as a resident, you can utilize these fields.
Yeah.
Unless you bring like a vendor on property, that's when you have to reserve. But I get a lot of non-residents for those. For the indoors, majority.
That may be a good way to adjust rates to compensate. I think residents will appreciate having the price tag too.
How early do we allow someone to rent? Like reservation?
9 AM to 9 PM.
I don't mean like.
Like booking
A
a
week
date.
Oh,
How-
right, so it's our 2 week notice, 2 week notice. But sometimes if it's a resident last minute and we do have it available, as long as they can get us everything, we try to accommodate. But we go for a 2 week notice.
How early? Like do
So can they book a year out?
Before?
They could book a year out, a year in
1 year,
advance, yeah. Yeah.
Well, I was thinking maybe we could make the residents have a little bit earlier advance notice than non-residents. So I don't know, you are resident, you get a year. If you're non-resident, 11 months, something.
Is it ever an issue? Do you have a conflict where people want the same place?
No, just one is Heritage. That's the one that everybody wants. And that's the one I get like a year.
I gotta talk about that, by the way.
Yeah. So, so that's the one, yeah. So that's the only facility. Other than that, no, it's just Heritage is the one that's really like a year, but all the other ones, no. I don't get a year advance for those.
Okay.
Yeah, I think allowing the residents to have a little bit early bird,
First dibs.
first dibs. You can't say, oh, I gave someone this month that. You can't say, oh, I'm gonna put you over, I'll put a resident over you, but at least they have, the notice, I have a month before everyone
Yeah,
else.
they can review the calendar.
I agree with that. I mean, yeah, it's kind of a benefit of.
Should we make that a motion, I
Write
guess?
these down though, because this is not for this meeting. That's what we're
So
gonna separate.
for the pricing structure itself. But if we can all go to page 2, I kind of just wanted to go in like order, like as far as like number 1, if you agree or disagree, if any adjustments need to be made. Again, this is not all gonna be set in stone, because something's gonna pop up like a light bulb in the next few weeks and be like, oh, we need to add this when we're talking about fee structures.
Okay.
So for example, for one, use priority, is basically CROA has, usage priority over the rooms. I was gonna keep as is, because per the recreation program plan, they are the first tier. So if there's no further objections, we can probably keep that as is. That's just my recommendation.
So,
Is everybody okay with
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to double check. The non-rental periods, we do get this question asked a lot, for holiday weekends. So like for Easter, community-wide events, Memorial Day, 4th of July, Labor Day, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. A lot of people want to do reservations on those days. However, usually we try to have like a pool closed, partially, it's only open partially, I mean, that day, just to, respect staff's, time off. However, if we did do like an event, if you all wanted to have like residents allowed to be booked, allow reservations on these days, maybe to have like an increased fee structure. So at least that helps pay, for the staff who have to come in on the holiday.
That's what I was thinking, we increased the rate, but we also could provide overtime for the staff. That, you know, to offset and have to come in.
Cause it's gonna affect probably CROA's budget, especially if they're budgeting right now for 2024, like the staff time. And you have an employee come in on a holiday on their day off, it's definitely gonna increase. So we're gonna have to cover those funds. So
Well,
we're
you can
not
also
over-
make it contingent on their willingness to come in. Like if you
Yeah.
don't have anybody to work it, you can't approve the
Yeah.
rental.
Right, no, yeah, that's
Or
true.
maybe just make it a morning,
um,
like just say from 9 to 12.
Yeah, certain
Is-
times.
You could limit the
Because
time.
this way everybody can get to the Christmas dinner, to Easter, to Hanukkah celebrations.
Can I back up a step on that? Do we have staff that wants to work these days?
So that's a
If
great
we
question.
don't-
These are all part-time employees. As far as like, at the moment, we're transitioning to do like more full-time park monitors instead of part-time park monitors, because we're getting more people who are willing to stay instead of a revolving door. So it would be a part of their schedule when they get hired on, they're expected to work these days. Now, there are times where it comes up where we actually don't have someone, they call out, but as of right now, knock on wood, we've had staff come in Easter, Memorial Day weekend, 4th of July.
And they can always trade off, like. in return,
Absolutely,
you
yeah.
get somebody to cover for you.
Maybe,
Absolutely.
on that point, it may be good to, if we have someone who's set up for that day, we have a backup already kind of
Just in case.
discussed. Be like, kind of almost like on call, I don't know, something like that.
Nikki,
obviously-
is there some?
Sorry.
Is there something that needs to be reviewed with legal as this is a change to job description or anything along those lines that we would need to review before we present?
As far as the Parks and Rec team, when we get hired on, we're expected to work. So we're expected to work holidays, majority of the holidays, not every holiday.
Okay.
Like, for example, I know in the offices close at 3.
Mhm.
Danny and I don't leave here at 3. You know what I mean? Like, we're expected to
Right.
stay, just in case something happens on property. But that's something I can definitely review, Victoria. So if it is recommended to, try to have rentals on holidays, that's something I'll definitely review with Lauren before it gets to the board's attention.
Okay,
What's the policy now? Just say somebody calls in sick.
Are you talking about on a holiday?
Yeah, or any day.
So for the holidays,
Is
the
it
pool
coverage?
opens, the maintenance team opens the pool like at 9:30 because it's like 10 to 5. And then a park monitor would just come in from like 5 to 6 just to close all the pools. If they call out, it's either myself or Danny doing it.
Gotcha. So you're the backup.
We're the back.
Pretty much,
Yeah. But I know this
We
question,
all have to coordinate vacation.
we do, yeah, we do it right now.
That's right, yeah.
But I know this is a question, I'm kind of going through this because this will help Danny in the near future, because he gets a lot of these questions, is why can't I do a 4th of July party? Why can't I do a New Year's party? Why can't, so at least like if we want to continue, we'll be more than happy to accommodate. Maybe just like limited parties, maybe one, and that's it. So it's not like 3 4th of July or 3, you know.
Is this the current agreement or the?
This is the current agreement as of right now. Yeah, that we don't rent on holiday weekends. And the first question is, but why? So at least I want to bring it up to the committee because we did tell residents and folks, hey, we will bring it to the committee's attention. So
But it is reasonable to expect that people want to be with their families too, and they'll have to understand that.
So I guess we should ask, how do you two feel about extending to possibly on holidays for increased fee and overtime or whatever?
So as far as that, basically whatever the committee recommends, we will follow. That's what I say about it.
Well, I recommend you spend it with your family.
Well, me personally, that who has been a park monitor and has worked those holidays. And residents, do you really want to have a party at North Village Pavilion on 4th of July? Do you want
Depends.
someone, yeah.
Like in a condo or
Yeah.
small apartment. You know.
So as a resident, you're more than welcome to utilize the facility, the outdoor facility. But if you're gonna bring vendors, which you're gonna bring vendors, DJs, would you like to have that outdoors? And no one wants that, because we'll get calls saying, hey, these guys are playing their music too loud.
Yeah.
You know, residents can more than welcome to use the facilities without the DJ, without just their family. They go to the pool, but on holidays, pools do get crazy.
But once they bring in a vendor, then have to get.
They gotta get it through, you gotta do a reservation.
So it just means residents can continue what they've been allowed to do in the
Yes, ma'am.
past. You're just,
Yeah, you just like they're doing now. You
Yeah.
just can't bring the DJs.
First come, first served, no vendor, but it's
Exactly.
open to residents for those days.
But they have to be able to share that facility. So Clint, you wanted to bring all your friends. I wanted to bring all my friends. We would be able to share that facility.
Well,
There's only like 3 people online, so I don't need a lot of space.
You gotta have a Crow ID for each of those non-residents.
So it'd be like just going to public park.
Right, yeah.
But no one's really monitoring that ID.
What's
It's a Crow ID. Is
So
anyone
it's-
really monitoring that?
It's a park monitor. But unfortunately, you know, with Island Village going around, it's one ID check per every hour and 30 minutes at this point. You know what I mean? So like if you're at Lakeside, you probably won't be checked for another hour and 30 minutes because they have to drive around.
they
It
do
takes
check
roughly
them. I've
20
been there and
minutes.
been
They
checked.
do.
We do make a
Yeah.
checklist, and as a park manager myself, I had to check the ID. So we have a checklist that says check IDs at this time. And like Nikki said, it used to be before Island Village, it took an hour to go through all the facilities that we had.
Right.
Now Island Village is a little bit more.
Right.
And
So-
now that we're in the process of like removing part-time and focusing on full-time park and pool monitors, you probably 2 park and pool monitors on the same day, so we can split the town in half instead of one person. So
And that
that's the
includes
goal in the
playgrounds
future.
too.
Yeah.
So it's
ma'am.
a lot of things to check. And then if there are complaints, are there cameras on everything where you can go back and review incident?
Yes and no. Some of the cameras, majority of the cameras mostly just point at the doors. There are some cameras that point at the certain playgrounds, but I don't honestly know if there's actual camera footage at every facility, to be honest with you. That's something I gotta check with them.
And I do believe it's been discussed by other committees, such as the special event committees, that there's talk of looking at how many guests are allowed per ID, especially as we continue to grow by adding Island Village. When we're doing events such as the 4th of July, at what point are we really maxing out? And therefore it limits the number of residents to have access to that. So I know there is talk at this point of reevaluating what that looks like.
Yeah, because I think the concern is as well is if Danny calls, or if someone calls Danny and they say they want to do a birthday party and they don't want to pay, and they say first come, first serve. What if you have over 120 residents at the open field because they all have enough Crow IDs? Like, when you say enough's enough? Like, I think that's something we just need to review.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they all,
Yeah,
and there's
It's-
also a piece for the cleanup if they leave a mess.
correct. Yeah, that's usually our team. We put it up, or the maintenance, even the
I mean, just as an example, there was a party in Island Village with little kids. Okay, great, have a good time, you know, it's cool, it's hot. But when I went back later, I'm like, well, this is a bit messy. And I'm like, I want to be, I cleaned it up.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to see that.
So if someone actually registers their event, are they responsible for cleaning up?
Correct, yeah.
But if they don't register,
Yeah.
no one really holds your feet to the fire.
Right.
Right.
Like this was in the pool area.
And we don't rent out the pool.
No.
We do
you
not
don't
rent the
a
pool.
They just, they were their little friends who were having a great old time, but what was spilled, napkins here, cups there, and I understand moms are busy. They don't have always the inclination to clean up after them because it's not their home,
Not the way I
but
was
it is
raised.
their home. Me either. But not everybody is like that.
And when we do rentals over at like North Village or Island Village, they do trickle into the pool area. So that's another thing. If I rented out North Village during a holiday, you know, they're gonna have that big party. And push them all into the pool area. You just need four pro IDs or one pro ID gets you four people, yeah.
Right.
So.
Is that what it is? One for
One
one?
for one. I'm leaning towards keeping it as is. What are y'all's thoughts?
I don't see.
The
a
more
reason
we
to change.
discuss it,
Yeah.
What are we talking about?
the holidays,
The rental
Okay.
the
period.
being
Yeah,
the
I think it
paragraph.
should stay the way it is.
I think that I kind of am feeling for the advanced like higher fee because like it says here special events, you know, someone may have a wedding, they wouldn't have it on a certain day.
Right,
But
but these are the holidays.
oh, I think someone could have won a wedding on 4th of July. I don't know.
Oh, well, that's true. I went to one on Halloween.
Or Christmas, and maybe they have their heart set on Heritage Hall. If we make the fee high enough, it won't be that common, but we can make sure that our people that are monitoring it and helping with are fairly compensated. We should also, and maybe not something we put in the regulation, but we also have to, you know, when they make the application before we approve it, confirm whether someone's able to do it. So I don't know how you all feel.
So Nikki, getting back to the agenda on here, are you needing us to say, yes, we're open to having 2 to 3 workshops? Is that, I guess my question is, what do you need from us as a committee to accomplish the facility rental rules and regulation reviews?
Well, for the rules and review, the facility rental rules and regulation, I was actually gonna try to go over some of that today, just to get
Okay.
out of the way, so we did have time. And then what we can't finish to utilize those 2 to 3 workshops.
Okay. Before we get to that, we are at 20 minutes. I know many of you have the hard stop at 7 o'clock, and thank you for letting me know in advance. I do want to open up if we have any member comments, and then we'll go through those. And then Nikki, whatever time is left, just start knocking out as much as you can prior to 7. Does that sound like an okay plan?
Sounds great.
Sure.
I like to start if you don't mind. So I attended this month's technology committee because I was told last time that they deal with the electronic map. And Jose, the IT lead, confirmed that a map was already in the works. They're updating it and they're considering even being able to show when a facility is closed, shown in real time, like red or X or something. I mentioned that they could see about the boardwalks, but we'll see how it comes out when it comes out. I was unable to attend a condo corner, I think it was called, because I don't think they had it in the notes in any of the Monday matters. But I'm still looking forward to that proposal I proposed last time. And then, if we don't mind, I'd like to ask that we evaluate the locations which can be rented, especially exterior, in the next meeting. I do feel that some locations like Longfellow that Nikki mentioned and some places in Spring Lake Park area are could be offered as rental locations, and so we could kind of expand where people can rent and possibly expand revenues. would it be possible to add that to either next meeting or a future meeting? Anyone want to motion for that?
I'll motion for that. I think that's already, is that part of the scope of the workshop meetings we're trying to figure
Yeah,
out? Or do we need to add
that's something I'll definitely add, yeah.
Okay.
So when we're talking about outdoor facilities, I'll definitely put it on that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's all for me.
Any other member comments?
Just one request, I'd like to see a pickleball discussion put on the agenda so that we can hand something up to CROA in the coming months. I believe that when 800 owners say yes to an activity, it exceeds a lot of other activities that we already fund. And I think it's our responsibility to look at it and propose something that everybody can live with. And then in relation to Nikki, what we want to work on today for a few minutes.
Yep.
I always love to ask that management point out what you see is where are the holes, where are the problems, what do we need to focus on? Because these sets of parameters we did 10 years ago, where are we seeing problems so we can kind of just talk about that rather than, because when you look at a bullet, you can think of 1,000 different, what about a wet? Oh, well, what if my dog died? There's so many. If you see problems, if y'all could point that out, open it for discussion, we could probably work through that quickly.
Okay, absolutely. Appreciate that.
Maybe something we could add to agenda, member, management suggestions.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I did actually find out that Georgetown, you're able to pay to use their courts for pickleball. I was a member, that's non-Georgetown member, can go and pay for that. So that's one avenue people have for that.
The way that works is you make a donation, it's not required, and they pay Georgetown rent for that space. But what's happened recently is people who live in Georgetown who play tennis are frustrated and they want tennis time back. That was taken away from pickleball. So I think we need to address that somehow. And that's our job as rec people to look at it and figure it out.
Definitely. I don't know if.
In regards to,
Yeah. Right.
go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead, Victoria.
Go.
In regards to the pickleball discussion, I'm happy to have that conversation, but my question is Charles is on the phone, is CROA doing something where they're starting I'm trying not to speak out of turn because everything I've heard is hearsay. So please take that with a grain of salt. My understanding is that CROA is looking at the possibility of doing a reevaluation of what the community wants and what order they are in. Because part of the argument is that pickleball was much lower on the list, and I don't know what number compared to other things that the community said they wanted. So I think it's important that we look at what a good chunk of the community is interested in, but I just want to make sure that we are in line at what CROA is looking to do for their overall assessment of what this community wants in total. Do we know what that looks like? Is Charles on the phone?
He's not on the phone.
Marco's the only one on.
Could we potentially ask if they're planning on updating the master plan? Because that sounds like what you're referencing.
Yeah,
Right,
especially
yeah.
if I'm gonna ask Victoria.
That would be helpful.
I
maybe
just want to
we
make
could-
sure if they're doing a master plan that we're in line with it as a committee, whatever that ends up being, so that we're in line and we enhance CROA and make the board there and go in line with what their master plan is for it.
One thing we can consider is maybe providing a survey to the residents, where each household gets a submission of what services they would like, what needs to be added, what can be improved.
When was that one? They did the Lowe's study. Was it 2019, 2018?
It was like 2019,
The
2020.
survey.
They did, yeah. They brought in a company to do a full survey.
And Clint, you were on that
task force in like 2017, right? 2018, and we did the survey for the community of what they were looking for.
Yeah, I don't know. Some things got pushed forward, you know, like a dog park. You know, I guess, when you propose something against everything, it's an unfair fight. So if we had proposed a referendum for basketball would have lost.
Yeah.
But yet we've got a great basketball facility. If we proposed a referendum for tennis or sand tennis or anything, it would lose on its own. If you propose a set of activities and outdoor whatever, it would win. You know, so the way that was done is ridiculous. What was outstanding was 800 owners said, yes, we want this.
And many more asked.
Yeah, I just started playing pickleball myself in the past 6 months with my kids, and I've never seen more people. It's doubled in
It's a,
interest.
it's a really cool sport and it's.
Anyway,
anything.
I just think as the rec committee, this is a hot topic. It probably should start here. CROA doesn't have anything going yet. I've had communication with some of them.
Well, because I know the past committees have made recommendations
Yeah.
before, right? And then I think they didn't go with it for whatever reason, but it wouldn't be.
It
that
might
big
need to
of
be
a-
paired with some other loud sports for that corridor. It might be that basketball, sand tennis, and pickleball all go over there because they're loud and it's an activities area. And we figure out the parking problem,
Right.
whatever. That's something for everybody to talk about, but I think somebody's got to pick it apart, tell the truth, and figure it out.
I think two
Yep.
things, two issues with the proposal we had. One was we were pairing it with the land management. I think they should be separate. And two, we have one basketball court, 5 tennis courts, 2 volleyball courts. So that's 8, and we were gonna have 8 pickleball courts. I think there's a bit of an imbalance there. That's something to
I
consider.
think that's an excellent bullet to bring up during that discussion. And then we can all
Yep.
go through it.
All right, then let's get that on a future meeting as well.
Each other.
I know.
Would you be able to handle that, Clint?
I don't mind. I mean, I just think
Oh, no, no, I
good
was saying,
people need to sit
Were you
down.
on the committee when it was like knock down, drag out
Oh, it was
fights?
crazy.
Yeah.
And that particular activity is probably 10 times more popular now than it was then. So, but I don't want to hijack this. Let's give you some production, right?
Yeah.
Is everybody in agreement? Victoria, are we good with putting this on a future agenda?
I am good at putting it on a future agenda, yes.
Do we need to vote on
Does
that
the
or is
rest of the
everybody?
community, what does the rest of the committee feel like? Are you nodding your heads yes or no, or?
Yes, absolutely.
I'd like to motion that we take it on.
I'm second.
All those in favor?
Same.
Let's do it.
Great.
All right.
One other thing we may consider is there's a gym all the way in Island Village, gym in Spring Park, but there's not really any gym for North Village or downtown. Maybe you could consider that in a later meeting.
We can definitely look at that as well. I think, again, we're coming back to, and I don't have a grip around where we're at from a budget point of view. You know, with the repairs that are needed, and I don't fully understand the budget. I know there's different buckets for new stuff, maintaining old stuff, repairing, et cetera. I think once we know what those buckets look like and what we are allowed to do accordingly, I think we'll be able to prioritize. I think that comment will go in line with what Clint said, is prioritizing what this community is looking for. But I don't know. I'll feel better about it when I have an idea of what our funds look like, because I could suggest lots of things, but I don't think the money's endless. So I would say that we would add the gyms to the rest of that discussion of what we want to propose as a recreation committee.
Okay.
Any other comments? I'm going to say one thing real quick, and then Nikki, I'm giving you 8 minutes. I just want to give huge thanks and acknowledgement to Clint. He was the chair prior to me being in this, and Clint, I think you did an amazing job. I think that I have super big shoes to fill in following you in this, and I think you're rightfully super passionate about it and offer a whole lot for this committee. So I want to thank you for being chair. I want to recognize the huge amount of value that you brought to this committee and continue to bring to this committee. And I just want to say thank you.
You're too kind. Thank you. I'm glad to sit here with you guys. A lot of good work.
Absolutely. Indeed, indeed. All right, Nikki, the floor is yours. Knock it out.
Okay, I'll try to go as quick as I can. 8 minutes. Okay, so the one, few things I just wanted to look at. Number 3, facility rental periods, where it says number 2, access to any facilities prohibited prior to the start and must be vacated by the exit time. Set up and clean down, must be included in the reservation time. Owners, will be deducted from the refundable deposit amount for $20 for each half-hour rental. I was thinking that we can just remove that $20 per each half-hour rental. It makes it a little bit difficult in our team with our software system. It's like $150 an hour, $300 deposits, and it's hard to deduct that all with our software system. It's either we take it all or we give it back. So with the removing half of the deposit, I feel like it's just not.
Well, and that's very inexpensive. So you're essentially giving them an out to stay a lot later. They're having fun.
Correct, because I know sometimes like rentals want to stay past 9 o'clock, so they'll tell Danny, okay, just take $20 out and then just give me back the other half. So I think this might sound rough, but we just say either you respect the rules and you get your refund back, you break one rule, we take everything.
I agree.
So just make it.
Yeah.
There may be a 5-minute grace period.
But we try to be very flexible with them. So that's totally fine. But when it comes to like an hour, 2 hours, yeah.
I think
We're
leave
pretty
it up to your
lenient.
discretion.
Okay.
Depends how nice the people have been.
Yeah,
If,
that's true.
and
It
if
is
they're
there.
repeat offenders, is there then a situation where they would lose their rental? Like if they just don't mind paying that extra $300 repetitively?
I think that's something we need to include on here.
Okay.
I know it says, number 4 on page 2 still, under D, it says use of facilities may be denied to an applicant with criminal violations, failed background check, past use violation. So that's where it's falling under.
Okay, great.
But if you guys were okay with number C of us removing that, and it would just say failure to comply with the rules will result in complete removal.
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay.
Maybe when we use the past use violation, maybe the first time it occurs, we give them a warning and say,
Because people abuse
repeated,
everything.
activity after for at least 1 year may make you not able to use it for a year following. That way we don't, like, you know what I'm saying?
Is this the example you're giving, Nikki, is someone rents the North Village Pavilion and they don't want to leave on time, so we're paying staff an extra hour or two.
Correct, yeah, especially if it cutoff's at 9 o'clock.
So,
Like it says, incurs costs for staff coverage, so
Yeah.
sometimes if someone says, can we stay till 10 and it's summer, or I know our staff's here till 11, they pay an additional fee on top of staff time fee to cover that. But when it's past the time where staff's supposed to be here, that's when we run into trouble. So that's why it's hard to have, I know Danny deals with sometimes repetitive offenders.
Then maybe
Where they
this
just
is
use the
just
same
agree.
name.
I
Yeah.
agree.
I think maybe not a hard immediately you lose privilege. You give them a warning, and if they repeat it within 1 year, then they lose the privilege for a year following the repeated occurrence. What do you guys think? Or should it just be you do it one time, you lose it for a year? I don't know.
Well, I'm good with, you do it once, we take the deposit, but if you do it again, we take the deposit.
Yeah, so you lose the deposit, but you're
Yeah.
also warned.
Correct,
Make
yeah,
sure-
no,
make sure
that's
it's
great,
ready
yeah.
to, like,
Alright.
you know.
I think that's smart.
And then to be 1 year after the occurrence that they're kind of canceled. Sorry, canceled. They're not able to reserve.
Correct, yeah.
The only thing that happens there is that they do it in someone else's name.
That's why I was
party.
thinking,
Yeah.
should it be a household? Should it be a household thing or?
Well, if you have them with a bunch of friends, you're 4 groups, you have 4 years of breaking the rule. I don't know how you manage that.
It's hard, we've had that happen where Danny will rent, example, he causes a mess, and then he'll just use someone else's name.
Well, can't we have them all register? All the people that are involved, all the Celebration residents have to be
We're
part
gonna
of
participate.
that list?
I mean, we could, that's just a long list. Like if you're doing a private function and I say, can you write everybody's name down? You may not be honest with me.
And
You know?
not everyone may arrive, then you could ban people who weren't even there.
True. Oh, that's a.
It's a gray area.
I just wanted to give you all heads up there, yeah.
So that was one on, page 2, page 3, under I. I don't know if you're looking at the Victoria. It says, for number 1, Crow facilities may not be used by anyone for an event which solicitation of funds, exchange of money, or fundraising activities occur. Written approval is given by Crow before the facility rental agreement is executed. It sounds tedious, but I was thinking about written approval by the Recreation Committee upon Crow Board approval. Because we do have a lot of people who try to do fundraisers on our property. So I think we just have to be a little bit more detailed about these fundraisers, like maybe a description of your event. You know what I mean? You have to have like a proper proposal given to the Recreation Committee, because you could say, I want to do a 5K on property. And you know, people sell stuff at 5Ks at the very end of the race and whatnot, but where's that going back towards, you know?
Mhm.
So I just kind of wanted that bullet point to be a little bit more detailed, because some folks will say, oh, I want to do a birthday party, and then they try to sell stuff on property.
Gotcha.
You know,
You're not talking about a Tupperware party.
Well, it's kind of like how we decided not to have concessions happen.
Yeah.
For outside programs. Just gives you checks and
If they're parked in the street, would they be considered afoul of this, or would they have to be like on our,
are you talking about like the food trucks and whatnot?
Even the ice
So-
cream truck.
or like a t-shirt truck?
Which I saw for the first time in our parking
Yeah,
lot.
we try to get it organized, like for Heritage, we try to make them park in like that Half Moon area, as long as they're not in a handicap spot. Lakeside, we would block off certain locations for them, so, excuse me, that's why they have to notify us about vendors in advance.
Okay.
And then number 5 I had still on I was Crow facilities may not be used for religious services. So, the Presbyterian Church does utilize our property for the Easter sunrise service every year. So I wanted to see if that's something that maybe we can remove, or maybe just say may not be used for religious services unless approved by the Recreation Committee. Because we do have like a good partnership with some of these churches in town, like with Knights of Corpus Christi with Knights of Columbus for bingo. And I know they don't do a religious service on here, but I feel like we have to be careful with that, because I know there's more churches coming up to Danny asking.
Nikki, what if you just added a few words to the end of number 5? It might sound like this. Crow facilities may not be used for religious services without express written consent of the rec committee or CROA for special events. Because what I see where that comes from is you could have a startup church that just wants to take the amphitheater every Sunday for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm a faithful guy. I think we work with the churches.
Right.
But if you add that verbiage, then that gives you the opportunity to let a partner have a special event, right? Does that sound good?
Correct, yeah.
Correct.
Somebody wanting to have a wedding ceremony, not a reception, a wedding ceremony.
Yeah, that is a good point. Wedding ceremonies are religious services for some people.
Correct, yeah. So
We
that's.
commented on the ability to rent for a wedding earlier in this document, so and even give them an exception to go 24 months out.
Yeah. it is,
Correct, yeah, it was number 2 on D.
No, I think that's a easy fix. Okay.
That was the minor things that we saw in staff.
Good point.
Yeah, if there's anything else that pops up, just please write it down, and that's something we can talk about at the next meeting. Victoria, do you want to do do you want me to do like an email about everyone's availability for the next couple of meetings? For the
Yeah,
workshops?
I really like that idea. I think we need to see what it is for them to appear in person or via digital or whatever, as I know July and August tend to be heavy vacation times for people as well. So I think I'm anxious to get started. I'm nervous about what 2 months we're picking to start in.
Yeah.
Can we revisit we had originally picked Tuesdays and there was a conflict with the finance committee. And then we were potentially gonna do Mondays. Once August hits, I can't do the Monday anymore. Could we maybe move it to the third Tuesday of the month instead of the fourth?
That's something I think we review. Yeah,
Good review?
yeah, I'll follow up with you all.
For the rest of the committee, if it did get moved to the third Tuesday of the month, should a room be available? Is there any conflict for other members that looking at that?
Fine with me.
No? Good.
Not on a consistent basis, no.
Should be fine with me.
Okay. Let's see what we can do. All right, if there's no other further comments or concerns or topics, do we have a motion to discontinue this meeting?
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
All right.
Thank you, everyone, so much.
Thank y'all. Meet you, man. Tell me about yourself. Where'd you grow up?
You there?